Hey guys, how's it going? End of another great trading week. Hope your week was green. And I put up a poll yesterday asking what ticker should I make a video on today. And the majority wins. The majority picked Rocket Company's ticker symbol RKT. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But like we always do, we'll talk a little bit about the market overall. We'll take a look at the daily graph on Rocket. We'll do some updated technical analysis on RKT. And then we'll close out the video by looking at the option flow data to see what the big money investors were doing with RKT. And then we'll get on with their weekend. So let's get right into it. So taking a look at the heat map here, you can see mostly green on the board, although big tech didn't have a great day. They had an okay day, pretty flat, right? Pretty flat to a little bit red. Nothing major, nothing was down more than 1%. The semis had a big day. AMD up 1.9%, Nvidia up 1.2%, Intel making a little bit of a comeback again, up 2%. Qualcomm, I think Qualcomm's a little bit of a sleeper right now because I don't hear a lot of chatter about it on certain subreddits. I don't hear a lot about it in the news. Qualcomm has just been silently kind of melting up and up and up every day for quite some time now. So take a look at the kind of weekly or monthly graph on Qualcomm and you'll see what I'm talking about. Micron had a big day today, up almost 5%. I think at one point during the day I was watching it, it was up, I believe, either close to or over 6%. Must have come back down to earth a little bit. But, one of my previous videos, Micron was at $69. And I said, we're knocking on the door of 70. And looks like today it got the pump that it needed. It's at $73.34 right now. So Micron's also been flying under the radar a little bit. I call it the honey badger because it does what it wants, but it's kind of crazy because a few months ago, Micron was in the $40s, $50 range and just kind of hanging out. And then all of a sudden, this past month of November, Micron has just taken off to the moon. So let's talk about RKT. Let's take a look at the Robinhood graph. So not a great day for RKT today, down just under 3.4%. A little bit of a rally after hours, up 0.3%, but that's not saying much right now. So Rocket was down about 70 cents today, but take a look at the weekly graph, kind of choppiness, right? Up and down, up and down. A little bit of a sell-off today, like I just said. Let's take a look at the monthly graph. Again, rather choppy, but keep in mind, RKT has not been trading publicly for that long, and we'll take a look at the trading view graph in a second, but let's just take a look to see how juicy the premiums are on RKT. So let's say I want to open up a weekly put for next Friday. I wanted to start wheeling this ticker. So what kind of return on my risk could I get? Well, let's see. Right now, if I want to sell a put, it's currently trading for $19.69. So let's just say I want to sell that put for $19.50. Well, I would collect $59, as you can see right here, for a collateral of $19.50, of $1,950. So that would calculate to a return on risk of just about 3%. So it's not the juiciest ticker I've seen, but it's also not the worst ticker I've seen right now. I think Rocket was juicy back when it first IPO'd, but I think the hype has kind of settled down a little bit, so that's why the premiums have come down. But also the VIX, the VIX, or the volatility index for the whole market has settled down compared to where we were a few weeks and months ago. So overall, the premiums across the whole market are going to be less than they usually were. I think we got a little bit used to the juicy premiums across the whole market, but right now the VIX is around 20 or so, and historically the average is, I believe, around 11. So even right now we are at higher VIX than we usually are when times are not as crazy. But to give you an example, a few weeks and months ago, VIX was in the 30s and 40s. And I think during peak illness, the VIX was all the way up there to about 70 or 80, which is just craziness. So the premiums were extra juicy back about 6 months ago. But let's take a look at the trading view chart on RKT to see if we can do some updated technical analysis. So as you can see, RKT IPO'd back on August 6th. A lot of hype, right? A lot of big moves that first month or so when it first IPO'd. And this is what I was talking about, where I think some of that hype has settled down now. So we last looked at RKT, I wouldn't say about a week or two ago. So we have to do some updated technical analysis. For the new viewers here, this is tradingview.com. I always get a couple questions asking me what platform I'm using. It's completely free. And the way I do my charting is these are all daily candles, so each candle represents 1 day of trading. These colored lines represent Fibonacci levels. My pink line here represents the 50-day moving average. The orange line represents the 21-day moving average, and I have the RSI curve on the bottom. This is the trading setup that I personally like. I think it keeps it simple without getting too cluttered, and it's been working for me so far. So if it ain't broke, I'm not going to fix it. But let's do some updated TA. I think the Fibonacci levels are okay right now because I drew it from the most recent low on October 30th at about $17 and some change to the most recent high intraday on November 17th at about $23. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend these lines out just so they incorporate some of the new data that's coming over from the recent days of trading like this. And what can we see from this? Well, one thing that I'm seeing immediately that's a little bit bearish is that right now RKT is trading below the 21 and the 50-day moving averages. I don't like to see that. I want stocks that are trading above the moving averages because that tells me the stock is on the up and up. That doesn't mean that RKT is going to just crash now. It's just something that I think it needs a little bit of extra momentum or a little bit of oomph or a catalyst to kind of get back on a rally. And just zooming out here, the one thing I see is that it looks like RKT is trading in a bit of a channel, because if I draw a channel that looks something like this, let's go to parallel channel. I think from really about, let's say, about $19 and some change, if I draw a line like this for the bottom, and then I draw a top line around, kind of around $23 like this, and I'm going to hide the Fibonacci levels just so it's easier for us to see what we are working with. And let's do that like so, just so we can only see the parallel channel. And I say that because take a look at this. From about $19 and some change to about $23, it's basically been zigzagging up and down. Yes, there are a few spots where we kind of broke out of it to the top side, broke out of it to the bottom side, and you could make the argument, well, why don't I draw it all the way down here? And I could. But I think the bulk of the price action is between these two price levels. And also the RSI right now is not really overbought, not really oversold. It is leaning a little bit to the oversold side, but that's probably because we had a little bit of a red day today. So I think right now, unless there's any catalysts that are potentially coming up in the future, there's no earnings coming up soon. It seems like RKT is just going to trade in this channel between, let's say, high 19s and about $23 or so. And the real question is, well, can I be a little bit more specific? And I think I can, because I think right now the 21 and the 50-day moving averages are right on top of one another at just about $21. So I think that is certainly going to act as an area of resistance right now. I'm going to temporarily draw a trend line right now to kind of show that right at $21. So I think right now my price prediction would be that RKT is going to trade between about $19 and some change to about $21 until it decides what it wants to do. Meaning, is it going to keep continuing to sell off? If we break below around $19, the most recent low is around $17 and some change. And that's really the all-time low, if you want to call it that, for RKT. I mean, the real all-time low is the first day it became publicly traded. Intraday, it went as low as $17.50. So if you want to wheel this ticker and you want to play it extra safe, I think you could have a higher probability of a winning trade if you set a cash good put at a strike, let's say at $17 or less, because really RKT hasn't gone that low ever. I'm not saying it can't go that low. I'm just saying it's never done that. So you may have a higher probability of winning that trade, or at least coming out profitable. To the upside, let's say you own shares of RKT and you're trying to sell some covered calls, but you don't want your shares to get called away. I would sell covered calls. And again, this is not financial advice, but I would personally sell covered calls above $21 because, like I said, I think these 21 and 50-day moving averages are going to act as a strong area of resistance until RKT has enough oomph to blow past above it. So that's what I would be looking for if I was wheeling RKT, but it does look like we are really trading in a channel right now. Let's turn back on the fib retracements and turn off the parallel channel just so it's not as cluttered. The interesting thing that I saw is that today we closed right below this 38.2% Fibonacci level. And I'll remind you, None of these numbers, you see these numbers on the side, these price numbers, they are not exact numbers. Nothing in technical analysis is an exact number. It's more of a range of prices. So although the Fibonacci level is at around $19.77 or 78 cents, you can see we closed pretty much right over there. The next Fibonacci level at 23.6% is right around $19. And that's also right where I drew that parallel channel. So that's why I think right now, until RKT decides whether it wants to be bullish or bearish short term, because right now it seems like just undecided and in the middle, just trading in this flat channel, I would expect RKT to trade between 19 and 21. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree. Let me know in the comments what ticker you want me to look at next. Before we end the video, let's take a look at Trade UI and see the option flow data on RKT to see what the smart money was doing. And as you can see, there were 3 option flow orders that came in throughout the day. All were call options, and they were at the 19 and 2 at the 20 strike values, and all 3 were for January 15th, 2021. So since RKT was trading in the mid to high 19s today, these are relatively bullish options, although they're not that bullish, right? Because the strike is not that far away from the current price of RKT. So I wouldn't put too much weight into this. It wasn't really for big money either. These options were between $35,000 and $57,000 worth of options. So not really huge money right now. And that kind of goes along with what we're seeing in the graph right now. It seems like people have just lost interest in RKT. The hype has kind of tamped down, and it's just kind of a meh stock right now. The premiums aren't that great. So I think if you were looking at a ticker to maybe start the wheel on, you might be able to do better with some other tickers with juicier premiums, because it seems like RKT just kind of flat all around. Let me know if you liked the video. Smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you join our Discord server. Add me on Twitter. Add me on Instagram. Turn on notifications. And as always, have a happy weekend and happy trading.